Hey, good morning to you. Yes, sir, Jesus is Lord. Yes, sir, the Word works whether you believe it or not. Seed time and harvest is forever, whether you believe it or not. Galatians 6:7, be not deceived. Don't let somebody tell you this stuff don't work. Don't let somebody tell you that God really didn't mean this. You know, it's like that little boy that came up to me that time. I was just a pastor of a little denominational church, and this kid, 12 years old, I'll never forget him. I don't remember his name. And someday I believe God will bring me across this path. He brought his little Bible in there. He said, "Hey, preacher, look what I found." And he quoted to me Mark 11:24, "What things soever I desire." I said, "Well, son, I mean, you're this denominational church," and I wasn't turned on the word. "Well, you know, God didn't say what he meant, and Jesus didn't always mean what he said." He said, "Hey, preacher, you got a book that tells me which ones he meant and which ones he didn't mean?" And I couldn't answer that question. So I went to the leadership of my denomination and asked them the same question, and they couldn't answer it either. I said, "Well, we got to believe it. Whether we believe it or not, it's true. I mean, don't let somebody deceive you. Seed time and harvest works. I mean, dear Lord, some of you have been reaping an awful lot of junk." I told one of my kids the other day, I said, "You need to repent of all the bad seed because you've got kids coming along, and you don't want to reap from them the kind of seed that you sowed to me when you was a kid." And they said, "Oh, my." And, well, what do I do about that? Well, you can repent. You can ask God to forgive you and dig up the seed and go plant some better seed. This is the key. Watch this. He that sows, I'm going to read part out of verse 7 here. "Be not deceived, God is not mocked. For whatsoever." Now, we're not talking about just money. We're not talking about just sowing love to your wife. We're not talking about a particular subject. We're talking about anything that you sow. Farmer wants green beans, he plants green beans. Farmer wants corn, he plants corn. Whatsoever. This is the law of God. You're going to reap. A farmer's going to reap what he sowed. So whatsoever a man soweth, that he sowed, shall he also reap. You got a rotten attitude, people are going to have a rotten attitude towards you. Show yourself lovely and friendly and kind, people are going to show themselves lovely and friendly and kind. You reap whatever you sow. Now watch this. "For he that soweth to his flesh," I'm reading right out of my Bible, Galatians chapter 6, verse 8 now. "That soweth to his flesh." I want that. I got to have that. Give that to me. Bye, bye, bye. "Soweth to his flesh, he shall of his flesh reap corruption. But he that soweth to the Spirit shall of the Spirit reap life everlasting." Now, I told you this yesterday, but I'm going to tell you again. I've seen some people that were sowing some terrible things in their life, and it seemed like they were just getting by fine. I mean, it just seemed like everything's fine. And I thought, wow, you know, they're not working this. They're not sowing this. Dear Lord, they're just doing fine. You know, and I went to the Lord about that. I said, "What about that?" And he said, "Be not deceived, Frank. I'm not mocked. They're going to reap when they sow." You know, 10 years later, 20 years later, they died a horrible death. They went through a terrible divorce. You know, all kinds of stuff went on because you got to reap when you sow. Now, Pat and I have been married 53 years. We got married when we were 18, so you can figure out how old we are. But we've been married 53 years, and we are in love. Man, yesterday I went to cut the grass at the church, and I had some other things I had to do. And I called her on the phone. I said, "I'm going to be home in a few minutes, baby. Meet me at the door." And boy, she met me at the door. She ran up, and I grabbed her and held her. I'm all sweaty and hot from out there working in the yard and things like that. But she grabbed me, and I grabbed her, and we had a big old hug and a big old kiss. And you know, then I said, "What are we going to have for lunch?" And she said, "Well, we're going to have this and that." And I said, "How about a date? Let's just go out on a date." We are enjoying each other. We are so in love. Sometimes I get up and think, wow, how is this possible? I love her more now than I did after we'd been married for a year. We're still having a honeymoon. We go places. We do things. But I sow to her, and she sows to me. Therefore, I have a right to reap from her. And watch, she has a right to reap from me. Whatsoever a man soweth. Now, we sow into the kingdom. We give, we support missions, we support other ministries. I've given away about 70 cars and 3 airplanes, and no telling how many hundreds of thousands of dollars we've given in supporting ministries around the world. So I have a right. I have a right to reap wherein I've sown, and I'm believing God for some new equipment. I'm believing God to be able to expand this program. I did try for a few days on Instagram, and it messed up my other program, so I got to go back and get some knowledge here and figure out how to do these things. I'm believing God for wisdom. Now what? Somebody said, "Frank, you have so much knowledge. You have so much revelation knowledge." We've never made charge for the gospel. It's always been free. I mean, we've given away millions of tapes and things of that nature over the years. I mean, I don't go to churches and ask for an offering. I don't take up an offering. I don't ask nobody for nothing. I go to God. I go to His Word. I say, hey, Lord, I've got to have $10,000. What do? I go to the Word and find a place to sow a seed of $1,000, because if I do that, then I have a right to receive, because the Word is always true. So here's what I'm saying. It's true whether you believe it or not, so you might as well quit sowing bad seed and start throwing good seed so you can receive good things. Hey, it's time for me to go get my biscuit and a cup of coffee. It's almost 2 o'clock in the morning. Saints, you're going to have to start sowing the kind of seed that you want to receive in your crop. That's the only way that it works for you and for me and for everybody else. You might see somebody that you know, man, they're sowing a bunch of junk. What's going on here? They're going to reap. I mean, it's going to happen. Just sit there a while and watch. It's coming. Well, I've got some seed in the ground, good seed in the ground, and I hadn't received everything that I've planted for, but I'm about to. It's coming, because God said He's not mocked. As a man soweth, that shall he also reap. Got to go. Have a great day. And remember all day, hey, Jesus is Lord. Thank God the Word works.